Hi, I'm John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Web of Deception. In this episode, we're going to be joined once again by my special co-host, Jason Goodman. Jason, thanks for joining me once again to help us all understand better this web of characters, web of deception. This is now episode, what are we, 17?
Yeah,
Just
pretty great.
unbelievable. Unreal. And, what's exciting about this episode, looking at the thumbnail and everything, is this is starting to tie some of the characters together and some of the bigger elements of the story. And, we talked about the Portland Christmas tree bombing topic in the past. And, for those of you who haven't seen the prior 16 episodes, it really is, just fascinating and complex. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of characters that have played some key roles and an organization. And this is, to me, this was a degree of leveling up, so to speak, in the lawfare world.
Yeah.
Whereas, you had been dealing with the court jester over there for a while, but this was a new level, and this was leveling up. And so I'm excited about this episode. Why don't you tell people who are some of these characters in the thumbnail? I see a couple of men in the picture, and so why don't you walk us through who do we have here?
People,
who of course. Yeah.
people were commenting that they think it's Rick Ocasek, which is
Yes.
not. But
From
that's
the
funny.
cars. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a huge leveling up of the lawfare. We're going to talk a lot during the sponsor exclusive segment about the details of who these people are and how they relate to each other. And we're not trying to do that, John, to bait people behind a paywall. The issue is the individuals pictured here, as you said, are so litigious that I'm not afraid of them bringing additional lawsuits against me, because I believe I've now become an extremely effective counter lawfare operative. What I'm concerned about is that they could threaten some of these other platforms and easily remove the YouTube videos. So we're encouraging people to become sponsors on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. They're going to be able to watch today's episode and all the 16 prior episodes, plus all the episodes of John Cullen Investigates on either of those two channels. Of course, we simulcast these shows on the Crowdsource, the Truth sponsorship platforms. I'm asking everybody to sponsor on odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth. I got a couple of messages from people who are having some technical problems with Patreon, specifically after your last episode that we did of John Cullen Investigates. So it's difficult for me to get technical support from Patreon. If anyone is having a problem, just send me a DM or sign up on odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth. We're going to also talk a lot, John, about the Twitter coup. And that is a document that I wrote in December of basically 2022. And I've encouraged a lot of people to check it out. It's free to read on Substack, on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. And I know I've said it a million times, but the reason why I'm encouraging people to read it is that it really ties together everything that we're going to talk about today and each of these people. And this is not just a matter of, a bunch of idiots on YouTube who are harassing me, or me being, pissed off that George did something to my show, or jealous that he has a bigger Twitter account than I have. I know a lot of people look at the internet and think that, but this document describes how I've been sued for the past 7 years by George's brother, but primarily this focuses on Adam Sharp and how I've been sued by him and his nonprofit organization, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, which is the body that gives out Emmy Awards. It's one of 3 bodies that give out Emmy Awards. I've become quite educated in the machinations of the television academies, perhaps much more so than I even thought I would when I was actually in Hollywood, and perhaps might have won on one of these things. I'll tell you the truth. When I was in Hollywood and anything about the Emmys came up, I would say to myself, it's bullshit. That's television. We're going for the Academy Awards. But even that now I realize is nonsense. But the truth of the matter in this episode is that this is not just internet trolling. We're going to talk about how Valerie Caproni, this is evidence in the public domain that I've been making allegations based on this evidence for 2 years. Nobody has challenged the evidence.
Let's be careful with the allegations here on this platform. We'll get into those details when we go to the Patreon-only portion. But for those of you who have heard Jason mention the Twitter coup document, which he has shared with people like Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger and these folks, this show is to give you an understanding of the background for that. So who are these people? What the hell is all that about? Where did this guy Adam Sharp come from? What is his background? Where was he raised? Who's his daddy? There's a lot going on here. And this sets up the Twitter. In other words, you can't really read and understand the Twitter coup until you understand what you're going to see in this show, because this is going to lay out for you what the hell happened here. How did Jason or Multimedia Systems Design Inc., or whatever the entity was, end up getting sued by the Emmys? Like, what did you do? So why don't we start with that? Did we go through everybody who was in the thumbnail? Did you explain who the court jester was? Does everybody recognize him?
No. Let's go back to the thumbnail. That's a good point. So we just basically touched there on Judge Caproni, but we've also got in this thumbnail, of course, Stupid George. Oops, that's not the thumbnail. We need this. There we go. We've got George, who's always there, and then we've got Adam Sharp. So this is the guy we were just talking about. Now you can see he's got a digi camo Twitter bird on his computer as he's typing away right there. Adam Sharp today is the president and CEO of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. And previously he worked at Twitter. He's had a lot of jobs. He worked at C-SPAN. He was a Senate staffer. He was the deputy chief of staff for Senator Mary Landrieu, who is a senator from Louisiana. And people say, I don't have firsthand information, but people say the Landrieu family is extremely involved in Louisiana politics, and there is a little bit of corruption down there, in case you did not know, in Louisiana. And I'm not saying that Mary Landrieu or Adam Sharp are involved in any of that, but it's possible. And anyway, the court jester, of course, is, he might even be in the chat. I should check. That's George's brother. He's one of the most litigious individuals I've ever seen. I did take some measures to try to frustrate his effort to mess with our show, and he's not doing it right now, so I presume they were successful. But he's dressed, as you rightly pointed out, as a court jester, because this is a guy who has been involved in so many lawsuits over the past 32 years. I'll be assembling a separate report about that, but I'm talking about lawsuits against, 4 or 5 different technology companies that were bidding for government contracts, lawsuits against the Department of the Army, lawsuits against the CIA, lawsuits against the U.S. government, and now for the past 7 years. What's that?
It's all he does, it seems. It's like, how do you have time to do anything else but this? And you're just at the receiving end of some of his stuff. As you just said, you just pointed out a whole bunch of other stuff too. And, he's trying to rope-a-dope you with so many lawsuits. And then the thing to me is that you were already engaged with him, right? You were already tied up with him or Robert David Stewart, both in the lawsuits.
When the Emmys lawsuit came about, yes. But let's just step back for a second and talk about the court jester's litigation history. I mean, it's true, for the past 7 years, he's been laser beam focused on me. But for the 25 years prior, there's a dozen or more lawsuits against all kinds of entities that have nothing to do with me. The curious thing is both of the Swigert brothers have spoken publicly, and here's a Wikipedia page about the limited purpose public figure George Henry Swigert, who is credited as the first inventor to patent the cordless phone. And we know that the full duplex radio telephone, this is a patent that is at the basis of sort of like every single wireless communication thing that exists right now. I mean, this is undoubtedly one of the most important inventions, basically, of the 20th century. And curiously, the Swigert family has not financially benefited from this. It is strange that David would not sue Motorola or GTE or Nokia or any of the myriad companies that have made billions of dollars from their father's invention. And that really creates a lot of questions around the background of all of these people. Separately, I want to point out that Mr. Sharp's father also has what you might call, let's say, an intelligence adjacent background, in that he was a reporter. Oh, I thought I had transferred these things over here. He was a reporter for ABC News. His name is Roger Sharp. And I didn't know any of this until these guys started messing with me. It's funny, you know, people who don't want me investigating their dead asshole CIA fathers probably shouldn't try to destroy Crowdsource the Truth. But the thing about Roger Sharp is his son has created this YouTube page called the Roger Sharp Archive, which is a non-commercial archive of work by the late ABC and CBS television newsman Roger Sharp. And the most notable aspect, perhaps, of his career is that he reported from the Dallas police station, inside the Dallas police station, on November 22nd, 1963, informing the public that Lee Harvey Oswald has been charged with shooting John F. Kennedy. Now, perhaps that's just a coincidence, but this is certainly one of the most significant events in U.S. history, if not modern human history. Totally changed the future of the United States and every country on earth. And curiously, I can't show this because I don't have an image of it. It would have been a federal crime to record an image of it. But during a Zoom conference with Judge Valerie Caproni at the height of the pandemic, when Zoom conferences were relatively new in U.S. district courts, they hadn't been done ever before, Judge Caproni participated in the conference from inside her chambers, where a portrait of Lyndon Johnson was hanging. Isn't that strange? Because Valerie Caproni, she is a woman of about, let's see, how old is she? Let's just look her up real quick. I think she was born in 1955, so she would have been 13, no, excuse me. She would have been 9 years old when Lyndon Johnson became president. It seems a bit of a tender age for someone to take an interest in presidential politics, and I find it weird that she wouldn't have a portrait of Barack Obama, the president who appointed her to the federal judgeship, and a president that everybody alive in 2020 is well aware of. I think a lot of people would see a portrait of Lyndon Johnson hanging in the judges' chambers and have no idea who the hell it was. In my view, that was a tip of the hat, a nod and a wink, a little steganographic message to let people know that she's on team asshole. My opinion.
All right. Well, let's help people understand sort of how this Emmy Awards debacle started, because I think it takes us back to 4 years ago. You and I were doing an award show, and I had prepared a
parody
presentation.
Awards show. It was a parody. No actual awards were given. No one was actually nominated. It was a funny joke.
Well, I don't know how funny it was, but clearly it was a parody. So we were doing a show, and I had prepared a whole bunch of material, and I have this trophy here that I got at Target, and so we had these, and I had little stickers down here on the trophy, and we were going to give a trophy out for this and a trophy to this country, and who had the least deaths per capita, and they were going to get a trophy and stuff like that. And I guess that the thumbnail that you made for the show made somebody just lose their, I mean, can you tell people the story, just how did we get into this? And then you'll tell them, what ended up happening.
Okay,
but
to
wasn't
further
it about
dispel the rumors and the false claims that I am somehow scripting you, I'm not.
Yeah.
What I was trying to direct John away from right there was any language about it being an awards show. It was a parody show. It was supposed to be funny. I think what he meant was it's a matter of opinion as to whether it was funny or not. But it was definitely not a legitimate awards show. We did not invite any kind of emissary from any country that was.
I only have one trophy, and I still have it. And I still have it. Right. We didn't actually give this to Nigeria.
But during the lawsuit,
the
lawyers for the Emmys attempted to represent, or at least they didn't attempt to represent. What they were doing was they were putting things on the page where they were stipulating reality. And that page becomes the thing that Judge Caproni stamps and signs, and then it becomes a court ruling. So they can write whatever kind of ridiculous nonsense in there they want. When a judge says, yes, I agree with your ridiculous nonsense, it now becomes contempt of court for me to violate what the judge has written there. So they wrote, yeah, we had an awards show. I said, no, it wasn't an awards show. It was a parody of an awards show. So again, I'm not angry with John. I just want people to understand. I didn't tell him, don't say anything about it being an awards show, lie in this way, lie in that way. We are two guys who basically get on the phone and say, what do you want to do for the show this afternoon? And there's a title thrown around.
And I would say, I want to do an award show. We haven't done an award show in 6 months, man. I want to do an award show. Now, that doesn't mean that when I call it an award show, it's a legally defined award show with awards. And, we didn't hire Anderson.
The point is they're trying to use whatever we say against us. And so basically what happened was there was a parody image created that right now I cannot even show people without being in contempt of court. And if I were to display that image on this show, undoubtedly, the court jester would send an email to Judge Caproni who would say, okay, you violated this court order now, and you're in contempt of court. So now we need to come up with a punishment. And she could decide that that punishment is Jason has to spend the weekend at the federal detention center where Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. And what do we think might happen to me inside there? I don't think it would be good.
Are you allowed to read the story? Are you allowed to read the Hollywood
Reporter? Yes, I'm going to show this because this is in the public domain. Now, if people go to thehollywoodreporter.com and Google this headline, you will see the image that if I show it, I could be put in jail where likely I think I would be killed.
But you can read the headline, right?
Yeah, the headline. Yes.
Yeah.
I can read the headline
and the
I can read the story.
This is hot.
The headline says, Television Academy sues after Emmy statuette given coronavirus. And the issue is we had created this show that included a parody image where I removed this element from the Emmys statue and replaced it with the medical illustration of the coronavirus. Now, what I've learned, I didn't even realize this was the Emmy statue when I did this. I just did a Google search for television awards statue. Yeah. And this was the only one holding a sphere. And I said, oh, that'll be perfect. I'll get rid of that and put a COVID molecule in there. And it'll be, making fun of television awards and awards shows in general.
Read the subtitle. Read what it says in the subtitle. What's the second?
Defendant used the image to market the Crony Awards, honoring countries that refused to lock down for the pandemic. Now, that's false, but that is what they said. What's interesting to note is...
Did we call it the Crony Awards? Was that the title of the show? Was the Crony Awards?
I think it was, yeah. Because remember, I was calling it the Crony virus at that time because I think I had misspoken the first time I said it and people thought it was hilarious. So we just kept referring to it as the Crony virus and the Crony Awards. And they took such umbrage to that because they thought we were saying they were cronies engaged in cronyism. And we weren't even meaning that, but they were so offended by it because that's exactly what they are.
And the impression, so both the Emmys who sued you, or the National Academy for Television Arts and Sciences, or whatever it's called, and zoom out a little bit. Who is this national reporter? What's this newspaper? Who is this up at the top? The
Hollywood Reporter.
So their takeaway, they're saying that we were giving awards for countries that refused to lock down. What the? Anybody who saw the actual show, now is that show still on Odyssey?
No, I had to take it down as part of the, people can't see that anymore. That was part of the order, is that I had to take it down and destroy all the copies of the image. But I can't destroy all the copies of the image because they retain copies of the image on this.
So who's Eric?
Hollywood.
Who's Eric?
I'm glad you asked.
Who's Eric with a Q Gardner? Who's Eric with a Q Gardner?
I'm so pleased that you're asking me that.
Who doesn't seem to understand what the show is about? Why does he? What is he? Who is he? Founding partner.
He's the founding partner of something stupid here.
But he looks like John F. Kennedy Jr., doesn't he?
I don't know about that. The most interesting thing
about him. Go back up to the picture.
Hold on. I don't care about that. What I care about is where he went to college. He went to Northwestern University for journalism. Do you know who else went there?
No. Who?
Oh, I think you do. Well, you're going to in a second. They don't know each other, according to Eric, but that is exactly where our buddy Adam Sharp went to college, and he graduated the same year, and he also studied journalism. But I mean, I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
That's interesting. All right, so whoa. Okay, so now take us back to the Eric Gardner article now. Now that we know that there's a potential, take us back to the artitle.
Hang on a second. I got to be very careful handling that article so that I don't go to jail and get Epsteined.
All right. No, that's not it. Eric Gardner. All right, so now let's take a look. So writing for the Hollywood Reporter, I see a guy who's potentially a crony of Adam Sharp's writes an article saying that you were making a thing about countries that refused to lock down, which, back then that was almost, punishable by death back in the day. This was back in 2020.
Right.
That was punishable by death. But the awards, that's not what it was, though.
No.
So this
is almost verbatim copied and pasted from the complaint. So it's a PR campaign to promote their bullshit complaint, their lawfare action against me, to give it credibility and notoriety. Now,
is Eric Gardner on Facebook? I'm curious what his relationship status is. I really am curious about his relationship status.
I don't know. I haven't followed this idiot beyond 2020 and talking to him about this. I spoke to him a little bit. He said he doesn't know Adam Sharp and he didn't have anything to do with that. But even if they didn't go to college together, the Hollywood Reporter is a newspaper it's a trade publication that relies upon advertising and certainly having access to the Emmys. I'm going to tell you a little something else I know about the Hollywood Reporter. Because, I used to work in Hollywood, right? Now, there's a film that I worked on called Julia X, which is a terrible name. It's not an X-rated film. It was a 3D horror film starring Kevin Sorbo. And it's actually much better than it should have been, given the budget and all of that. But it's pretty bad. From a script standpoint, it's kind of stupid. Really, the most redeeming aspect of it is that many, many reviews, if people go online, particularly for the Blu-ray DVD, which was released in Germany, many German magazines and film enthusiasts have said that this is one of the best 3D movies ever made, and that the stereoscopic effects are even better than movies like Avengers. The film producer Jason Blum came to 21st Century 3D in New York for a screening of this and forced me to stop the projector about 30 seconds in and demanded to know why this looked so much better than Avengers. He had just gone to see the movie Avengers the night before, and he couldn't believe how much better it was. He sat there and watched 20 minutes of the film. Jason Blum is one of the biggest producers in Hollywood and is the kind of guy who, if he didn't like it, after 30 seconds would have gotten up and left the screening. So anyway, the point is, when Julia X debuted in Cannes, not in competition, but at the Marché du Film, we were trying to sell it internationally, this article was released in the Hollywood Reporter. And guess what? It came out the same exact day the producer put a $10,000 ad in the Hollywood Reporter. And coincidentally, this is the only positive review of Julia X in the United States. I'm not saying the Hollywood Reporter is influenced by its advertisers, but it's possible.
Well, for anybody who's been in the publishing world, I mean, the supposed wall between the editorial department and the advertising department, you know, I think we all acknowledge, that kind of disappeared a long time ago. Yeah. But, you know, they will want to maintain the illusion of independence there for sure. But certainly it's interesting that, you know, the way it's been portrayed, because that's not what we were doing. You know, we were showing things like Hong Kong didn't have 10 people dead or something like that. We weren't making fun of places that didn't lock down. That's absolutely not what was happening. So Eric Gardner's perception, I don't know, did he watch the show? How would he know what we were doing?
No, he just transcribed the lawsuit. And we're just about out of time here on the intro, John, but we're going to get into all of these details and much more. If people haven't watched any episodes of Web of Deception, this is like the master episode. And it's also the first time that I've really spoken on the show about the EMMYs lawsuit. Certainly, I haven't spoken this extensively about it before, and there's a very important reason why I'm going to do that. I mentioned this a bit on Twitter.
This sets up the Twitter coup. This sets up everything you learned about Twitter you would not have learned had these guys not kicked. Right. So to me, this is the source material. This is how, if you want to understand how Twitter came to be potentially, and why Twitter came to be potentially, and why the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's, you know, biggest names still own a piece of it potentially. Stay tuned and join us when we go over to the patron-only portion of the show. We're going to kick off just in about 5 minutes. If you're not yet a patron, you're missing out on some of the craziest stuff going on in the world that we simply can't talk about. Yeah. We simply can't talk about it. Jason will end up getting thrown in prison. They'll kill me. So please become a patron. Spring for the $5 a month. It's not enough to buy us coffee, so we don't call it buy us coffee, because you can't buy coffee for $5 anymore. Jason drinks organic crap that's $9 a cup or whatever.
No, I don't drink coffee.
Kombucha. When you drink that kombucha crap or whatever that is. Join us over the patron-only portion. Thank you all for joining. I'm John Cullen. This has been Web of Deception.
One small step for man.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Yeah. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut. She says that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G.O.D. Don't believe in T.H.O.D. She keep playing me down. I'ma play her for fun. You don't really know my mental. Let me give you the picture like stencil. Falling down in the drought. No flow rain was pouring down. See, that pain was all around. See, my mom was kinda loud. Didn't know which way to turn. Flow was cool, but I still felt burned. Energy up, you can feel my surge. I'ma kill everything like this bird.
One small step for man.
What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. Yeah. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut.